hosting this panel. It's useful, and it's also great to be talking about kind of a positive topic for the economy, because clearly over the past 4 years, this was a bright spot in the Obama administration and congressional collaboration on the economy. So it's nice to be talking about ways to enhance something that's generally working well. Before I ask questions, I'll make a note that recently I introduced a bill that's related to this topic that'll head over to the Ways and Means Committee, H.R. 4831, which will allow people who are using crowdfunding and a Subchapter S company to not have that crowdfunding count as one of the 100 shareholder limitations. Since pass-through ownership's gotten so popular, I'm not sure S-corps are as popular as they once were because of state LLC encouragements. We all recognize that. But in the small community bank arena and in some niches in the economy, Subchapter S is still popular. And so this is a way, I think, to combine the benefits of the Jobs Act with that Subchapter S form of incorporation. Mr. Keating, I want to start with you, and you raised a question that we talk a lot about in here, and that's the AML, the money laundering laws, and you made a reference in your testimony about portals and how they might be treated under AML. Could you elaborate just for a second on that?
Sure. Yeah, we're concerned with applying those to portals. It doesn't make any sense when you think about what, the anti-money laundering laws.
So they are being applied. That it is currently applied to portals.
Yeah, my understanding
prospectively concerned about that.
My understanding is that it's under consideration, that has been kicked around, if you will.
Yeah.
And I believe FINRA said no, but now, from what I understand, Treasury it's at least being kicked around there, and we're concerned about that because it's tremendous regulatory cost. There are examples of foreign banks not wanting to deal with American and depositors and so on because of the tremendous regulatory costs. So if you apply that to portals, that would be catastrophic, I think, in many ways.
Thank you. Mr. Beatty, a question for you from a state perspective. Since we've had this experience on general solicitation for a private placement, has it generally been successful that there haven't been noted through the state securities commissioners anything kind of catastrophic happened by having this general solicitation of certain private placements covered by the Act? Has it gone pretty well, in other words?
I think that a relatively small percentage of the Reg D filings that we see are utilizing general solicitation, and in the early history, no, there have not been much by way of reported complaints with regard to them.
Yeah. And Mr. Griggs, you talked in you had two interesting comments in your testimony. One was on the short positions disclosure. Would you elaborate on that for a moment?
Sure. If you look at
explain to the committee why that's important. What's going on out there in the capital markets of people shorting stocks that is concerning right now?
Yeah. So a very large part of being a public company is how you're going to communicate with your investors, and senior management dedicates quite a bit of time to doing that because it does help represent in the capital markets, both for how their currently stock trades, but also they want to raise more capital. So today, investors are required at certain levels to report if they are a long holder in the stock, and that dates back to the 1970s. If you look at a short position, companies by no means are saying that shorts are not valuable. They do provide liquidity to the marketplace, and they're an important part of the investment community strategies. But there is no insight to a company about who those investors are that are shorting the stock, the same way there are for long positions. So in the interest of transparency, companies feel to really communicate effectively to their shareholders, knowing who those investors are at certain levels, the same way they know longs, would be very valuable.
Have you seen anything recently in the market that concerns you more particularly, like this IVR patent troll issue and short positions? Are you familiar with that? That seems to strike at the heart of emerging companies.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, but this is not a new issue with short, not knowing who your short positions are. This has been ongoing for quite some time, but I think as you look at the rise of activist investors, it's really come to fruition in the last several years. It's become much more common conversations we have with our companies.
Thank you, and thanks, Mr. Chairman. My time's expired.